Welcome to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's live streaming interview series, where leading new thought teachers, speakers, and authors share the intimate stories behind the 10 best spiritual books that inspired them the most on their spiritual journey. From well-known classics to hidden gems you might never have heard of, the No BS Spiritual Book Club saves you time and money by sharing reliable recommendations from those who've walked the path before you. The No BS Spiritual Book Club, the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to inspire your own journey of self-discovery. Here's your host, founder of the No BS Spiritual Book Club, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello, welcome. Joining me today to share the 10 best spiritual books that had a major impact on his life journey is internationally renowned transformational sound and energy healing expert, Mark Romero, who's helped thousands of individuals over the last 20 years experience instantaneous healings and shifts in their perceptions through the frequencies uncovered in his music. Mark Romero, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So tell us about your relationship with books. What do books mean to you?
Books for me are like these little nuggets that contain wisdom. It's like, you can plug into any insight, wisdom, information, solutions, everything available through the books. And so over the years, books have just been this place where I've gone to, where I've been inspired, where I've had my course corrected, where I've opened up to new mindsets and new ways of looking at things, and have really been a very important catalyst in my own spiritual evolution, my own unfolding, and continue to this day to be something that supports me along on my journey. Considering that we're never really done unfolding or realizing or learning new things. So there's always more new things to read. So books have always been a catalyst and such a wonderful support in that part of my life.
What would we do without them, eh? Do you remember the first spiritual book you ever read?
I would have to, go with the classic. I grew up Lutheran in the family. So for me, it was scripture. And it was something that I took a tremendous interest in because it was the first piece that I'd ever been exposed to with multiple stories, multiple writers, multiple analogies within it that contained within it nuggets of life, spiritual life, and certainly presented some wonderful, beautiful stories that really inspired me to it really ignited that curiosity about my own spirituality and about life. So that's the one I've got to give credit to. That's the one that I probably got exposed to very first from a very young age.
And that's why it's the first book on your list.
That's why I got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did you have a challenge trying to get this list down to just 10 books, or was that easy for you?
It actually flowed a little bit easier. There were some books that were left off, but yet also played a part. But these were the 10 that really jumped out. But I was actually able to narrow it down, so to speak, relatively easy because each one played an important part in my own journey and in my own evolution. So it was, I was surprised actually, but there were some ones that that I kind of, like a hero with 1,000 faces of Joseph Campbell. I mean, the hero's journey. I love that whole aspect and that whole story, and that certainly could have made the list. So there were definitely some books that were left off the list, but these 10 really popped for me.
So did you give us your list in the order that you read them, or was it just a random order?
No, I actually think they kind of were in a progression. Now, whether they were in the exact order, but they were kind of in the progression of my spiritual unfolding, starting off with the first being the Bible. And then from there, really key important pieces that continued to challenge maybe some of the dogma that I had been exposed to in the past in my initial, exposure to Christianity, and key pieces that ignited my curiosity in certain areas like manifestation or creation and these different aspects. So it kind of unfolded in a timeline. Absolutely.
Well, we can't really put a date on the Bible, book 1, but we can put a date on all the others. The second book on your list is The World's Religions, Our Great Wisdom Traditions by Houston Smith, and that was published in 1995. So what was it about this book that impacted you?
Well, I had an experience. I was in a men's Bible study. And at this particular point in time, I had done this pendulum shift in my life and had really become a fundamentalist, I have to admit. And I remember in this study, I shared an example of something that we had experienced on our family side. And I remember the response from people in the group was it was hateful. It was violence. It was like judgment. It was like all these things that, to me, that book didn't stand for. So it was out of that experience, I'm like, oh, wait, there has to be something more. And in fundamentalist Christianity, you're not told to read other books. There's nothing else that you need to read but the Bible, so to speak. But that book came to my awareness because I had to begin my search and looking outside of Christianity for other wisdom traditions that have all been here. I wanted to see the correlations. I wanted to see the similarities. I wanted to see what opened up out of those pieces. So that book actually gave me an opportunity to begin to start diving into the Muslim faith, to start diving into Buddhism, to start diving into Judaism, which I'd been exposed to a certain degree, and look at other Hinduism and all these other great traditions that have been on the planet, sharing the experience. And I wanted to dive in to really see what else was there and begin to expand my understanding of the world that I lived in and how I fit in and how I could show up and be who and what I was meant to be.
So expanding your, your ideas about religion, did that cause you any difficulty in life with your family?
Absolutely. No, actually, it was, I think, kind of liberating from the family. My mom is funny. She rebelled in her youth, and because her family had done this huge paradigm shift to be fundamentalist, and she never really resonated with that. So when her son became a holy roller Bible thumper, I'll never forget one day on the phone, she goes, "Don't become so damn holy. You're no earthly good." Slams the phone down on me. Whoa. I just got brought to, mom just whacked me upside the head with that one statement. And, so I think actually when I started to sway away and started opening up to other avenues and concepts on spirituality, I think there was a sense of relief, definitely with family members, at that particular point in time.
Good. Yeah, good. That's probably an unusual story. So book number 3, now we're really diving into the spiritual. Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach, which was published in 1997.
That book holds a very special place for me. I love, once again, because there is a tie-in, it's the story of the reluctant Messiah. And even in the beginning, the little story that talks about these creatures clinging to the bottom of the river was just something that captivated my interest. But I think what really ignited me about that book was it was the first book that I read that spoke about the power of our imagination to shape and shift the world around us. And to me, that, have you ever, I'm sure you have, but we've all read something or come across a piece that just, we read it and it resonates through every fiber of our being. And so in this story, the reluctant Messiah shares about the power of imagination and challenges the author to begin to utilize his power of going into that inward sacred place that's within all of us and begin to imagine things in his life. And this book really it helped me to build a momentum and helped really to spark my interest in creation, in manifestation, and how ultimately I could be the composer of my life experience. And so I really owe that to that book, because the idea of creation and manifesting, and we'll see that in some of the other books, has been a theme that continues to interest me to this day. How do we tap into our power to shape and shift the world around us? And this book was the one that ignited that whole concept and even brought it to my attention that could be accessed through our imagination.
Book number 4, by one of the most widely read inspirational self-help authors in the world. It is The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino, and that was published in 1975.
Yes. And this book actually showed up when I was in my fundamentalist period, interestingly enough. But I love the story. I love story. I love, how story can bring things to fruition. But I think, at this particular point in time, and I think with many of us as we go through our life, we don't see ourselves as being good enough. We don't see ourselves as being deserving of the blessings of life. We don't see ourselves as being extraordinary. And this book really brought to my attention through this magnificently written piece called The God Memorandum. And within the book is actually a challenge to read this for a certain amount of days. And within that memorandum are powerful pieces that remind us that we are the greatest miracle in the world, that all of the billions of people that have walked this planet, there's only been one you. And even the most precious, things in life, like a Stradivarius violin, there's more than one of those, but there's only one of you. So how does that make you not only the greatest miracle in the world, but the most valuable, precious things? And so that piece began to shift some of, the old thoughts, the old beliefs I had about myself, I had about life, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't deserving, that there wasn't anything special about me. And this book began to shine light and say, no, that's not the case. You are the greatest miracle in the world. And it's time for you to shine and reflect that truth in through your life experience. And so I really credit that book with igniting something special and bringing to my awareness that it was important to let go of those old limiting stories and to begin to honor who and what I was, that I was truly a magnificent, divine creation of life, an expression, a unique expression. And I really owe it to that piece.
Do you know much about Mandino's past?
Not so much. I've read a number of his books, and certainly a couple of other ones could have made the list, but I think I never really dove too much into about the author.
I had a quick look. I was intrigued because a few people have mentioned this book, and I do have it, but I haven't read it completely. He joined the US Army Air Corps. He became a military officer and a bombardier, and he flew for 30 bombing missions over Germany during World War II. He also flew with the movie star James Stewart as his fellow pilot. But the interesting thing is that afterwards he became an alcoholic. He lost his wife, he lost his family, lost his home. But his influences later on were inspired by the Bible, like yours, and also influenced by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone, who wrote the classic book, A Positive Mental Attitude, and also Emmett Fox. So, a very interesting life. And I don't know at what point in his life he wrote that book, but it's certainly been a massive seller.
I think also another thing that's important about that book is it brought up one of the character in the book was called a rag picker. And he would help people pick the rags off, who saw themselves as being rags. And I think there was something ignited within me, and I wanted to kind of help to do the same thing, to help people realize that they're not rags, that they're not these unworthy people, that all of us are deserving of the blessings of life and really owning who we really are. And even as I share, it brings up this emotion, because that's something that's always been very important to me, which continues to fuel me today with the work that I'm doing.
Yeah. Book number 5 is a very popular book in this book club. It is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and it was published in 1922. And I'm always interested in, what this book did for somebody, because it seems so many people benefited from it in different ways.
I just think it brought an Eastern take on spirituality. It really brought to light the hero's journey in a beautifully written story, about somebody who had to go on their journey, somebody who had to let go of their things in life. And for me, like I said, I was seeking. So I don't know how the book came to me, but it provided that, I guess, perspective of Buddhism, of life. And once again, spiritual story. I'm captivated. I'm in there. It has I always like the aspect of him meeting Kamala, the older woman that brought him the world's ways, and how, when I think he had described it as like passion dripping from her lips. I mean, so even things like that, it brought to light this whole aspect. That part of it became this journey of him going through these twists and these turns and these ups and downs in his experience, and ultimately stepped into being this wise figure, that could share information, that could share perspective. And I could kind of see the similarity of this rag picker type philosophy that really came to light in this book. But for me, it was really adding, once again, a different perspective on spirituality, because I'd been so ingrained with the Christian perspective. It was just beautiful to have this Eastern perspective come into play that actually really continued to help fuel my my curiosity for life. My mom says she found me under the floor of the house one day, banging on pipes when I was like 2 years old. I didn't want to come out. And I was down there trying to bang the pipes and figure out how this whole thing fit together. And I'm still trying to do that today. And that book helped me to get a little bit more understanding of this thing called life, how we fit into it, and ultimately how we can successfully navigate it.
Book number 6, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, published in 1910, a book that's enjoyed a little bit of a kind of a renaissance in recent years.
Mm-hmm. I noticed we're going back in time with books. That's kind of interesting. Well, I mentioned earlier, I've had this interest in manifesting, and this book came to my attention, and it came to me not with so much this desire to get rich. It was like, because it was about creation. It was about manifesting. It was about impressing upon formless substance, what it is that you desire to bring forth. And it was the first real in-depth book that answered some of the questions that I had after Illusions by Richard Bach. And how do we utilize our imagination? How do we get ourselves into that space where we can create our lives? And this book really, that era, there's James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, and certainly could have made the list, kind of falls into that place where it was about learning how to create, owning our power, that we're not powerless. We're not victim of circumstances. We actually have the ability to influence them and to change our experience. And it's not just rich monetary wise, but it's about creating a richness of life. And this really provided me with some tools to begin to start practicing that, to begin to start implementing this, and ultimately help me create some amazing experiences in my previous career and the life that I've created today. And when I was working through the list, I actually went back through and thumbed through and looked at the highlighted lines that I had in there. And there was just some beautiful nuggets of wisdom, how we can truly step into being the creator of our lives.
Yeah. Book number 8 brings a smile to one's face. It has a very happy title, and that title is A Happy Pocket Full of Money, Infinite Wealth and Abundance in the Here and Now by David Cameron Gikandi, and it was published in 2006. See, you're smiling, I'm smiling.
I am smiling, because that really was like it's funny. It's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, but I don't know if it's really about money. I guess it is. But to me, it was like he wrote this book on meanderings on napkins. And so it's the type of book that it's not a story. It's just perspectives on different things about the quantum take on life, the looking at this universe being this magnificent field of energy, and how we are expressions of that field of energy, and how, once again, we have the ability to shape and shift it and control it. But it's the type of book, and I love this kind of book, where you can just open up to a page and there's your message for the day, and you get this beautiful perspective. And I got into his work after this book, and it really inspired me once again to learn more. Who am I? How, what am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? How do I create? How do I manifest? How do I heal? How do I transcend my own self-imposed limitations? And this book provided little nuggets of wisdom that ultimately really helped me at that particular point in my life where it came to my attention. And, it's like, even occasionally today, once again, when I went through the list, looked at highlighted lines. Oh, that's a great line. Oh, that's a beautiful concept. Once again, reminding us the quantum nature of the universe, and that what we experience through our senses is the tip of the iceberg of who and what we are and what's available. And it's about learning how to access that part of the unseen to begin to start manifesting it into the scene. And, if it certainly fueled that quench and that curiosity for how do we manifest? How do we create?
Book number 8 is a beautiful, beautiful book. It's one of my favorites. It's also very popular, understandably, in this club. And it is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, published in 1923.
Yes. It's like, how many teenagers get given The Prophet by their mother? So I got given The Prophet way back then. My mom always fed me these books. She didn't like my fundamentalist period in my life, so she would always throw these little different books at me. And this one is one that really stands out, and it's interesting because even just recently, there's wisdom contained within that book that continues to help me navigate my life. I have 2 daughters, and one's 21 and the other one's 16 going on 28 or something. I'm not sure. But I was struggling because my oldest was like, I'm moving out of the house. I'm moving in with my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God, every father would go through that, right? And then so my mom called me up. She said, you need to go read the chapter in The Prophet on children. And so, I grabbed that book, read that chapter. Oh my gosh, there you are. I'm paraphrasing here, that as parents, our job is to just pull back the arrow and to launch it. Where it goes from there and how it flies and what it gets into is not your domain. So quit carrying that burden. And, it helped me tremendously in letting go and allowing my daughter to step into her next phase of her life, dealing with the implications of her decisions and her willingness to create the life that she wanted. And so that book has just been special over the years. It's one, once again, that you can go plug into a chapter or a story. Once again, with this, I've always loved this. The wise man comes forward, shares this information that can help people on their journey through life. So it kind of helped fuel my desire to become wise and to help people on their journey through life. And not only that, but it continues to help me in my journey today.
Yeah, I just love the wisdom in it. I mean, when I first read it, I was, my children were still at home, and, the thought that my children don't belong to me. At first, it was like, what do you mean they don't belong to me? And then, of course, you begin to understand what he's really saying is that they belong to themselves. And
yes,
yeah, we have to let them be them.
Yeah, you have to let them stumble. You have to let them fall. You have to let them learn from their experience, and I think, obviously there's a phase as parents, we're there to pick them up when they stumble and fall and scrape their knee and do the silly things they do, face plant into the My Little Pony castle or whatever. And where you want to do it, you want to fix it for them. But there's also a very distinct point where you can't do that anymore. It's time for them to build their muscle, their awareness, learn from their experience. That fire is hot. Don't put your hand in it, and jump into the game of life full throttle. And that book's a great piece, not only about children, but about work and different aspects that can provide you with just beautiful nuggets of wisdom to help you as you navigate through life.
So we're going to take a short break now. You're listening to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's 10 Best Spiritual Books weekly interview series, and sharing the 10 books that influenced his life journey is spiritual consultant, sound healer, and my goodness, a bit of a wizard actually when it comes to music, with all that he is able to imbue into his music, Mark Romero. So we're talking about his 10 best spiritual books, and we will be back shortly with the rest of his list and some information on how Mark manages to get those healing frequencies into his music. So stay tuned.
OMTimes TV.
Maya Angelou once said that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and when I'm not hosting OMTimes Media's flagship radio show What Is Going On and the No BS Spiritual Book Club, I help people share their untold stories. Books are my life, my joy and my passion, and there is no greater reward than helping aspiring writers get their books out of their heads and into the hands of those who are waiting to read them. If you feel that you have a book in you but don't know where to begin, visit Sedgbeer.com. Click on the Work With Me tab and find out how my experience helping others tell their stories might be just what you've been looking for. That's Sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. Mark Romero, Book 9, Ancient Secrets of Success, The 4 Eternal Truths, revealed by Toshi P. Sen, published in 2016.
That one makes me smile too. Just such a special piece, once again, filled with story. There's different stories in there and analogies, a beautiful fusion of Christian mysticism and Hindu mysticism, and ultimately was, I think, the first book that really opened me up to some of the magic contained within the Upanishads. And so it's, once again, a book to help connect to that space. It really brought to light for me the importance of meditation and connecting into that space between the thoughts and accessing that divine aspect of who and what we are. It also brought within it the power of mantra, the power of sound, the power of certain phrases that could help you deepen your spiritual journey. And just something about the way that it was written, the stories that it told, once again, containing within it great wisdom. And I always love the aspect of bringing and combining different wisdom traditions and pointing out the similarities in the teachings, that we are spiritual beings, that we do have access to, that divine Holy Spirit that's within each and every one of us. And then, of course, it also gives you 4 powerful lessons and processes that you could implement, meditative processes to help really fuel your spiritual unfolding. One of the analogies that I love within that book is he said, the mind's kind of like a puppy on a leash, and it's bouncing around, dragging the owner, taking it wherever it wants to go to. And he said, no, we need to reverse that. You, the owner, represents the spiritual aspect of who and what you are. You need to command the mind and have the mind serve you, not the other way around. And perhaps maybe to stop, letting that thinking processes that take place between our ears that lead us in all kinds of wild journeys and tangents and worries and possible outcomes and fretting the past. No, you need to tell that puppy you command it. And just beautiful analogies, the chariot and the mind and the intuition and all these different aspects of who and what we are and how we can begin to start, in essence, kind of bringing them into harmony so that we really can unfold as these powerful spiritual dynamic expressions of life and best be able to create a life with more meaning, more fulfillment, more silence, more insight between all the thinking that takes place in our heads, and get connected to that higher aspect of who and what we are, and reminder who serves who, that part of us within ourselves. Is it our ego? Is it our mind? Or is it our spirit? Is it that higher aspect of who and what we are? So love that book. It really provided me with some key pieces that once again fueled my spiritual evolution, my spiritual understanding of the world that I lived in, and how I could really create higher levels of success and fulfillment on my journey.
Who is Torshi P. Sen? What do you know about him?
Well, he's I'm trying to think. He's not from India, but he's obviously from that region of the world. And he's a business guy. He's been involved in consulting and bringing these principles into the business world, which I really appreciated. Being a recovered CEO myself, it's nice that somebody's bringing that into that space. And he just has a beautiful understanding of life and an understanding of Christian mysticism, Hindu mysticism, and how they intersect with each other. So it's almost like he has this uncanny ability to speak to the Western and the Eastern mind and bring them together in such a powerful way that could really fuel us all into creating a more enlightened life. Other than that, I don't really know much more about him. I mean, I dove into some things about the authors along the way, but that's pretty much what I know about him.
So book 10, the last one, Who Are You and What Are You Doing Here? By Alexandra M. Published in 2020. And this is a channeled book, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's the only channeled book. Well, I guess maybe some of them might be up to debate for whether they were channeled, but I guess this is one that says this book is channeled. And this is actually a recent book for me because I started having some questions. This year's been a very interesting year for me. My father passed in January, which brought up all kinds of things, and just shifting through the mourning experience and what came out of that. And I was observing the world, and I had this thought, sometimes I wonder, the world doesn't seem to be getting any better. Sometimes, maybe it's supposed to be this way. maybe this is the way that it is supposed to be. I actually had these questions arise within me because I'm curious. I wanted to understand, why don't we see, we hear about the consciousness shift taking place. The esoterics call it ascension, and we hear these things, but yet we also see more disharmony than ever, I think. And part of that is because the media that's, I think, available to us all through social and through online and different things. So I really had these questions. So this book kind of came to me at a very unique time. I was asking a lot of these, who am I? What am I doing here? Why is life the way that it is? Why do I experience such powerful contrasts in my life? Why do we show up here and completely forget who and what we are? I believe wholeheartedly that we're these beautiful expressions of universal source energy. And we play this most elaborate game, the cosmic game of hide and seek. Come in here with all of your grandeur, all of your power, all of your magnificence, all of your unlimited potential. You're born into this helpless little baby and promptly forget every single bit of it. And then we have our parents, we have our education systems, we have our religious traditions, we have the media that impose more limitation upon us and help us to forget who and what we are. This book actually brought to light the importance of contrasts. We come here to experience our divinity. And in this game board of planet Earth, we do that through contrast. We experience the beauty of a full moon. We experience the new moon. We experience the high tide. We experience the low tide. We experience contrast in our own lives. But what if we could actually start leveraging that contrast, those challenges, those obstacles that we all encounter to lift our lives to the next level and actually to evolve and unfold? I think that's a purpose that's intertwined within all of us, is to learn, to grow, to unfold, and to become something more than we were before. And that the universe decided to play this most elaborate game, this game of cosmic hide and seek. And out of that sometimes twisted, sometimes masochistic experience, we have this opportunity to experience our divinity, experience who and what we really are. Yes, we experience pain. Yes, we experience sorrow, but we also can experience what's contrary to that. We can experience joy, fulfillment, bliss, ecstasy, but without having something to compare it to, without having that contrast, we really would miss out on the beauty of that unfolding journey. So this book actually provided some really key pieces for myself, some of these questions I was asking at the time, and really provide me with some different insight on what I'm doing and how I can bring forward what I'm doing to help people to transcend the contrast they're experiencing in their lives, and to begin to utilize the challenges and the obstacles that they perhaps encounter to lift their life to new heights and to unveil this divine masterpiece that I believe is within each and every one of us. And that we've come here to experience that. And to experience it, we have to forget we ever were that. And so it provided some excellent perspective on that.
Well, that was your list. If you could have dinner with any of those authors, which one would it be?
Oh man, gosh, I don't know. That's a good one. If I was going to have dinner with any of them, who would it be? Og shows up, Og Mandino. When you answered, there was 3 people that showed up: Og Mandino, Jesus, and why am I tossing his name right now? Richard Bach, just because that book played such an important part. But those were the first 3 that popped in that experience.
Hey, it's got to be Jesus. It's got to be Jesus. How could you turn down the opportunity to have dinner with Jesus?
That's true. I don't know, man.
The only person who has.
It worked out too well for him. I don't know if I want to join him for dinner. No, but yeah, absolutely. You're right. I mean, here's, an example of an enlightened being that brought forward such beautiful wisdom. Yeah. And he's got the mainline connection, to answer some of the questions that have tormented humanity and tormented all of us to one degree or another. Yeah, I guess I would have to go with Jesus.
Okay. All right. I'm ashamed. Sorry, it's a shame, but I cannot produce him for you. But that doesn't mean you can't have a relationship with him.
True.
Let's talk about the fact that you're a recovered CEO. And where did this jump from being a CEO to being a musician and a composer and a sound and energy healer? Which part of your life did that happen? Or was it secretly always going to happen?
Well, there was always something there. I remember very young, I was at my best friend's house. We were looking at the telescope at night out on the deck. And I remember looking at the stars. I said, you know what? I think we're like in the body of God. These stars and the planets and everything, they're like cells, And then never forget my best friend's dad goes, God would never have anything evil in its body. And I remember looking at him like, that's just like the stupidest thing I've ever heard anybody ever say. That was my initial response. But, I think it was around that period, out of that, there was always this aspect, I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a reason, somehow, some way to help others on their journey through life. I didn't know. This came up very young age, for me. And then, of course, we're told to be responsible. My dad had set the example of being a successful corporate guy, start entry level, work your way up the ladder, make good money, do that whole thing. And of course, once you have all the bells and whistles in the home, then you'll be happy, content, and fulfilled. And that was the model that I bought into. So I started off, interestingly enough, in the semiconductor business, which is all about conducting energy through computer chips, and began my ascension. I figured, hey, if dad can do it, I can do it. I didn't go to college. I wanted to get paid to learn. So I went to work instead. And so ultimately I had become the founder of a company I started in my garage. And after 5 years, we're doing about 15 million a year in sales. You would have thought I would have been content, fulfilled. I got the shiny car, the home in Southern California, the bells and whistles, the portfolio, right? All those key things to happiness. But I'm like going, well, wait a second. Why am I discontent, unhappy, unfulfilled, unhealthy, stressed out? And I came home one night and there's my lovely wife in the hallway. She gets up in my face and she goes, I don't give a damn how much money you're making. I look in your eyes and you're dead. When are you going to have the courage to go for the dream? Like any good husband, I wanted to find fault with what she said, but like any really good husband, you go, dude, you know what? She's right again. Own it. And she was right, because over the last couple of years of that climb up the ladder, I started feeling this discontent. No matter how shiny the car was, it didn't make me feel good. No matter how big my portfolio got, it didn't make me feel fulfilled. I knew that there was something more within me. And out of that night, that connection, I realized that's it. I'm not getting any younger. If I keep doing this, it's going to freaking kill me. And so the next day, literally within the next day or two, I went and told my partners, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going to go find my purpose. I'm going to find out why I came here to play the game of life. And so I walked away from a multi-million-dollar business to discover myself and to embark upon my hero's journey, because I had been getting the calling to go on the journey for years. And I finally decided I could no longer afford not to listen to it. So I left to go discover why I was really here, what I was really meant to bring forward, and how I could bring that forward to help others.
So music, had you always played, been interested in music? Was it your dream?
No, it wasn't. My mom tried to make me play clarinet when I was young. I absolutely hated it. And that was my first exposure to music. But then I'm going to date myself here. I went to go see Pink Floyd, The Wall in 1980, LA Sports Arena. David Gilmour playing Comfortably Numb on top of the wall. And out of that experience, altered state of consciousness, maybe a little, it's like, I've got to get a guitar. And so I proceeded to go home. Dad, you got to give me a guitar. Dad, give me a guitar. Dad, give me a guitar. So he got me a guitar. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school. I picked it up and I never put it down. I used to have the best concerts in the safety of my bedroom at home. I had a roommate that played bass. We would jam hours upon hours. And it was just something I did for me. It was selfish. It was all for me. I'm not sharing it. I could speak in front of a group of people, but man, put a guitar in my hand and 2 people in the room, I became the shy kid. I had no interest in playing music in front of people, and literally had to be forced to make my first album. And that album ultimately got in the hands of the scientists that discovered this healing gift that I had and my ability to be able to put healing frequencies into music.
Hang on. So a scientist just happened to get your album, and what prompted the scientist to even study your music, to realize that there were healing frequencies there?
It did just happen. It wasn't part of my agenda. It wasn't part of my thing. My wife Lara had a friend that owned a wellness center, and they were having an open house, and she goes, could you come play, just like a set of music? So I came and played, and I'm done playing, and the woman that runs the center comes up to me and she goes, I hear tones in your music. I'm looking at her, I'm thinking, oh man, I could just tell this lady, she's gonna get weird. And then she got like right up in my face and she goes, and nobody can hear the tones but me. And now I'm looking at her going, yeah, I heard some tones too, man, back in the 80s, listening to Pink Floyd, watching the Lava Lamp. We heard some tones, And she goes, no, I'm serious. Give me a CD. I know these scientists. So I'm giving her a CD, quite honestly, so that she won't bug me anymore. Here you go. See you later. Here's free. Take it. And, I went home, didn't think anything more of it. And next thing I know, I'm getting introduced to a top former consultant to NASA, a quantum physicist, very talented energy worker himself, who was involved in a study of what are the implications of the 80,000 man-made chemicals in our air, food, and water, the countless disruptions from our beautiful technology that we've all surrounded ourselves with upon our energy field, a very energetic look at people, and how these things were disrupting us and putting us into a state of disharmony. And that disharmony was outpicturing as this huge, massive increase in neurological disorders, health challenges, cancers, all kinds of different things. So they were looking for things that could eliminate those negative effects upon people. And music was one of them. And so I get invited to this lecture. At this particular point in time, I'd never heard of quantum physics. I'd never even thought of looking at my world beyond what I experienced through my senses. And that night, I got to learn that who and what we experience through our senses is just the tip of the iceberg of who and what we are. But what really blew me away was they're demonstrating up on stage how things we use every day are putting us into a weakened state, compromising our energy. They have me come up and start playing music, and I see people's energy shift instantly in front of my eyes. Increases in strength, flexibility, endurance, coordination, and balance. I'm blown away. And then a few days later, I get a call from him saying, hey, you have energy that's coming through you that has the ability to tune people's energy fields, even though they're being exposed to their technology, even though they're being exposed to different things in the environment, helping them to reduce stress, improve their health, their vitality, their energy levels, their physicality, accessing higher levels of creativity, intuition, their memory, their focus. And I said, I don't really understand this. He said, well, we want to buy 1,000 CDs from you and start selling them. I said, okay, now that maybe I can relate to, but I'm not so sure about the whole quantum physics thing. And that was my launch into this experience. And it's funny to think that the first time my wife told me I was a healer years before this, I literally ran down the hallway with my fingers in my ears. Don't ever tell the corporate guy he's a healer, okay? You're just going to freak the poor guy out. And lo and behold, I learned that day, no matter how fast you run, you still take yourself with you. And ultimately, what comes? Oh, yeah, you're channeling healing music and using healing frequencies and using music as a carrier wave to get it out into the third dimensional world. Okay. And that was the beginning of my journey and stepping into, what I'm doing today.
Well, we have that first piece of music, you've let us have a clip of it, and we're going to play that now so we can experience it.
Awesome.
So how does that come to you? You know, what inspires each piece of music? Are you hearing something and then translating it?
I think initially it was just being creative, just making stuff up over the years and all those wonderful concerts I had in the safety of my bedroom at home. I just made up things. And I never wanted to learn other people's music. I did, but purely as a reason to learn techniques and different things like that, not as to go be a touring musician playing other people's songs. So I just started making some stuff up. So initially it was just pure creativity. And it wasn't until later that I heard this line from a sound healer scientist who was discovering the healing properties of sound or studying them. And he made a comment. He said that music is the carrier wave for intention. And I thought, oh, I can program the music. So if somebody I'm doing coaching or mentoring or healing sessions with needs courage or confidence or to love themselves more or to let go of something or forgive, I could put that into music and stream of conscious, in essence, channel music and put together a very interesting playlist to support them on their own evolution and healing journey. So that's when I really, started to see and got these ideas that I could channel different pieces of music to create a specific outcome. And it really became the foundational part of the work over the last 10 years has been to create specific playlists to help people tune a facet of their lives or an issue that they were dealing with.
So, you've been doing this for 20 years and you've helped thousands of people experience healing. Do you do one-on-one sessions with people, find out what's going on in their life, go away and then create, original music just for them?
Well, actually it happens right in the session. It's like, I'll share the story of my very first person. I was doing a session with a young lady who had been recreating a pattern in her life of 10 years of dysfunctional relationships. So over the years in doing this, I can hear where people are out of tune. She wanted to create a healthy relationship, but she was broadcasting resentment. It's like, okay, so I did some digging. Okay, who are you resentful against? How's the relationship with your dad? Oh my gosh, well, we haven't really spoken for 10 years. It's like we didn't get along well, we fought, all this stuff. I say, are you open to forgiving your dad and realizing that he just did the best that he could with what he had, with his level of awareness? She said, you know what, Mark? Yes, I am. So I'm hooked into the studio because I play live on my sessions, and I channeled out a piece of music. I'd never played it before. Out comes this piece of music with the intention of forgiveness. So I recorded it, sent it to her. Here, play this in your environment. Let's see what happens. So she calls me up 3 days later. You're not going to believe this. I said, what's up? My dad called me today out of the blue. And he said, you know what? 10 years is way too long to have unresolved issues between us. Are you open to sitting down and talking about reconciliation and forgiveness? Mark, you don't understand. My dad is like macho man guy. He would never do anything like this. I said, we all need to understand that the outer is a reflection of the inner. You set the intention to forgive your dad. You worked with this energy and this vibration. Lo and behold, what shows up? An opportunity for you to forgive and let go of something that was creating all these dysfunctional relationships over this 10-year period. And she was able to take action upon that and shift something that absolutely needed to be shifted, and ultimately was able to create that relationship she was looking for. So out of that, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm onto something here. So that's when I literally started channeling music. They're not rehearsed pieces. They just come out. Okay, here you go.
So is that piece on forgiveness, is that something that is available to anyone, who comes to your website? They can purchase it. It wasn't unique for her.
That particular piece was not unique for her. I re-recorded it. I don't recall now. I think that's actually it's part of the Harmonize Your Life series. And basically I look at us as these dynamic beings, kind of like the guitar, through the metaphor of the guitar. We have 6 strings. We have 6 facets. We have our health, our relationships, our spirituality, our careers, our purpose, how it is that we express ourselves, our happiness. Those are our 6 strings. Well, sometimes our strings get out of tune. So we have to tune them. And that's what this series is all about, is helping you tune that facet of your life. Having a health challenge, play the health music. Forgiveness and letting go of resentment and anger and unresolved issues is a huge, powerful step in letting go of the disharmony that's showing up in multiple facets of your life. It's a very important one. So yes, in essence, it is available, and it's part of a series that has playlists to support people in tuning each facet of their life.
Well, we have a second track that you've given us. What is this track about?
This is like...
What's the intention?
This one definitely has an intention. So this is probably my biggest, I guess, quote, hit. It's entitled The Journey. And it was really composed with honoring your journey. All of the twists, all of the turns, all you've learned, all you've yet still to learn, honoring all of us are on this amazing journey in our lives, our expression. In essence, our lives are kind of like this book with chapters and lessons and learnings and different things. And that's part of our journey. So this book is to help you this piece is to help you to honor your journey, where you are right now in this moment, what you're committed to unfolding into, what you still have to heal from, what you still have to embody. It's all part of the journey. And that's what this piece is all about.
Okay, let's listen to it. this the piece of music that is available as a download that you give to people when they sign up for your newsletter?
It certainly is.
I thought I recognized it. I should do. I was listening to it non-stop for the first few weeks after I downloaded it. I love that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a piece that's really taken off, and I wanted to make it available because we're all on this journey, and it's a great way to really begin to experience the inherent benefits of rising above the static and noise of our modern day world and providing that opportunity to connect in within that sacred space within us all, where we find our guidance, where we access all of the information that's available to us to help us to heal, to help us to overcome our obstacles, and ultimately to fulfill our purpose and create the life of our dreams. So it's one of my favorites, and I play it all the time.
Yeah, me too. It's music as therapy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Music in itself is therapy.
Yes.
And when you put harmonizing frequencies, it's like therapy music with frosting on it.
Wow. So how long does it take you? I mean, is it just you get the inspiration, you do it, you record it, that's it, done? Or do you then have to do mixing and various other pieces to it?
Well, like both of the pieces that we listen today are now part of what I call the Vibrational Success Series. And it's ultimately a series of music to help you to tune your energy and rise above negative influences in your environment, to help reduce stress and enhance your performance. And so it's part of a series, but those were done in studio, So I actually have a friend of mine, Steve DiStanzelo, who's a drummer, producer, helped me produce my first 2 albums, which became a key part of that foundational program, and created these pieces. But now I record in, I've got effects, I record things in the studio, I mix and master them, but it's usually just myself. Or if I do, I'll put in some synth sounds and some different things with the keyboard and stuff. So the only musician I have to deal with is the one I see in the mirror, which can be, a troublemaker himself.
Wow. So how many different, series do you have?
Well, I have 3 main series. The Vibrational Success Series, which is about tuning the energy in your environment. The Harmonize Your Life series, all about tuning the energy between your ears. There's one because a lot of people get caught up in the area of prosperity. There's another one entitled Unlimited Prosperity. And then I have just a ton of pieces that have become foundational pieces of my Healing Online series. They're kind of like online courses in a way, where there is musical and energetic transmissions to help support a different outcome. And so there's constantly music. I have a library that's huge I call them musical mantras. They're intentional pieces of music. And some of them, I got to admit, are just sitting there, which need to be brought forward. So in their own unique way. So in group programs, I create on the fly for whatever arises out of like a group healing session or even a one-on-one session, and ultimately helps activate energy within people to help them become more powerful catalysts for transformation and change on the planet. So all kinds of beautiful things open up out of this experience, which I'm in the process of amplifying even more as I move forward in this particular period of my life expression.
So when you come home at night, or at least, out of your studio and into the house, your wife no longer has to look at a dead-eyed man.
No, that's true. She still does give me the look though from time to time, that's like, yeah, really, or I get to say things to her and she'll, who are you? What did you do with my husband? Because I've just gone on this massive well, we both have really, but I mean, from being kind of uptight left brain corporate guy with definitely a chip on my shoulder and an ego to contend with, and then, embarking upon my hero's journey, which was more than happy to purify me, so to speak, and take me through my own trials and tribulations and learning experiences. I've come out this other side now, just completely changed and transformed, and it continues to evolve and unfold and in its own different ways. It's amazing what happens when we get ourselves out of the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So what is your current goal?
My goal is to help harmonize the planet. I want to help restore harmony to our planet, which is experiencing a tremendous amount of disharmony right now. And so, if somebody was to ask me, what's your superpower? Well, my superpower is being able to make the disharmonious harmonious. So I think one of my big challenges that I have encountered in the 20 years in leaving the corporate world was, you know, I didn't want to be a healer. I didn't want to play music in front of people. So I had to get past my own stuff, the not being good enough, the not being deserving, I'm not worthy or whatever, and work through and do my own tremendous amount of healing work. So for me, my vision now today is to amplify this as much as possible. I think, when you experience the passing of a loved one and you realize, oh, I'm not here forever. I'm in this, I'm getting into this other phase of my life. What do I want my legacy to be at this particular point in time? So really, to me, was an activator to it's time to amplify the signal and touch more lives. So I'm looking to bring forward my music. Yes. Have people engage in my healing series. Yes. And then engage in either one-on-one or group process work, but ultimately to help people it's almost like activate this higher vibrational frequency within people so that they can truly become more powerful catalysts for sharing harmonizing energy once again with this vision of restoring harmony to the planet, and go from there. So that's what I'm committed to. That's what I'm engaged in. It occupies every day, and not only for myself but for my wife. We're doing this together, and very excited to have that opportunity.
Well, I think that piece of music especially, does it have a name?
Which piece of music is that?
The last piece that we heard.
Oh, yes, it's called The Journey.
The Journey. Okay. Yeah. I think The Journey should actually, you know how you go into supermarkets and there's all this canned music, which is really horrible, being played. Just imagine if they were to put this on a loop. You'd have people just coming out so relaxed, so happy.
Over the years, I can't tell you how many people have experienced transformation. I remember this skeptical gentleman at the gym. I told him about what I did. Oh, come on, really? So I gave him a CD. It was back in CD days. And then he comes back after the holidays. Dude, I'm sorry I doubted you, but I played your music and looped this CD during Thanksgiving. It was the first time in 32 years that there was no fighting. Yes. There was no squabbling. There was none of that getting triggered by family member stuff. He goes, it was the most beautiful, serene experience. I've had people tell me it's the answer for road rage. I even had a woman in South Africa who was playing the music into a prison that she worked at to help calm and de-stress people. And even people experiencing Alzheimer's, children with autism, all were experiencing these shifts. It's amazing what happens when you null and void the vibrational barriers that we've all surrounded ourselves with in our environment, and how you can begin to connect into your true essence. Our true essence is not stressed out, freaking out people. Our true essence is to be blissed. Our true essence is to be divine. Our true essence is to be harmonious. And so, is there a lot of work to be done? Yes, absolutely. There is tremendous amount of work. Sorry about the truck backing up there. As perfect example of how we're all exposed to things in our environment that create disharmony.
Well, we're out of time now, Mark, but the next time I speak to you, I want to hear that you've done a deal with Walmart.
With Walmart, huh? Okay.
And they're going to be blasting that music through every store.
I don't know. That might just lessen the type of characters we see show up on those Walmart videos. We see from time to time people wearing superhuman costumes and different things. But no, I like that. I think it would be beautiful. Absolutely.
I think it's got to happen. We have to, help people one way or the other. And to do it in a way like that, I think it's painless. It's not invasive. And, if it makes everybody feel relaxed and happy, hey, what more could you ask for?
Absolutely. I love your idea. So I will align with you on that intention.
Okay. That intention, yes, we'll put that intention out there. Mark Romero, thank you for adding your 10 best list to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's library of recommendations. It's been an absolute joy to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you inviting me and holding the space. It's been extraordinary. Thank you.
So for more information about Mark Romero's music and energy healing programs, sessions, and online courses, visit his website at markromeromusic.com. I'm having problems speaking tonight. Where you can sign up for his newsletter, learn more about how his sound healing technology can revitalize your life, and discover what his high vibration music can do to reduce your stress and enhance your health and well-being. That's it for this week. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another 10 best interview for the No BS Spiritual Book Club. Till then, it's goodbye from me, and thank you again to Mark Romero.